Welcome into Real Kyper and Bourne and McKee. I'm sitting here today with no Nick Kyprios, joined by my boy Sammy. Sammy, how are you?
Doing well, buddy. Thought we might hear something from Kyper today, like, "Hey, boys, have a good day. I'm on the ghost."
Gone.
He's gone. He's off the face of the earth. So,
Like, I'm going to take the day off today, and I mean, I'm taking it off. You know, we got a weird week. Got a couple of baseball games that may take us off the air in a couple days.
Yeah.
So Kip took advantage of it. Going to get a little sunshine in Florida, play some golf, which, hey, totally appreciate that. Rest
nice.
up for the long Leaf Stanley Cup playoffs run. You got to be fresh. We may be working on the weekends once they're in the conference final.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to be missing any of that.
Live
time.
on location in the Stanley Cup finals that we're going to have to do. So, it's
I
going to be
gotta
tough.
believe.
What do you
I
mean?
gotta believe if they went on like a deep run, we would do some stuff.
Well,
We would do some like, hey,
seems like we're throwing some money around. So, maybe.
we're chucking a couple of dollars around
maybe.
here.
Who knows, though?
Anyway, that would be that's the hope for now. So to set the stage for everything right now, the Florida Panthers play the Montreal Canadiens tonight. Then on a back-to-back, they come to Toronto and play the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the Florida have a couple of, I guess, meaningful matchups to their opponents. The game tonight is one that for Montreal is pretty crucial. They do have a pretty soft schedule after this Montreal game. After this Florida game. Montreal then would have Boston, Philadelphia, Nashville, Detroit. So some winnable games for them. But Florida coming in tomorrow night. What do we know, Sammy? Is it lineup decisions, goalies? What have we heard?
So I'm just looking to see if the starting goalies tonight for the so the Panthers are starting Vanacek tonight, so against the Habs, and then they're going to go with Bobrovsky tomorrow against the Leafs, which tonight is really important for them because if they lose tonight potentially and it's hard to picture them losing twice in a row to the Montreal Canadiens
Can't
when they're in a
see it.
playoff race, even
Can't
with
see it.
Vitek Vanacek between the pipes. Then they come into tomorrow 3 points back of the Leafs and potentially with a loss in regulation 5 points back. So tonight is a sneaky huge game for them.
Yeah.
Get that? Is it? You almost wish it wasn't on the second half of back to back in terms of quality wise or whatever. But it's a good break for the Leafs.
Hate for them to have an excuse.
Yeah, but it's a good spot for the Leafs to get them coming in off the back to back, and they're gonna get they're an older team, played a lot of hockey. It's a good chance for the Leafs to potentially put a little distance between them and them.
Yeah, there is a fantasy world here where Florida is scuffling a little bit. Matthew Tkachuk, still not in the lineup though he is skating.
Yeah,
Which is development because you got to believe you're going to get him in the playoffs.
wonder when he'll play.
Yeah, well that's exactly it.
What's
So,
the Leafs' first playoff date? If they're playing them, what's their first game they're gonna play?
but he's not in right now. Ekblad's not in right now.
Yeah.
They haven't exactly been on fire. So there's a world where the Leafs could be 3 points up, 5 points up with like 7 games left if things were to go well over the next couple of days. So needless to say, want to start your best guys.
Yeah.
You want to have a playoff lineup. I don't think we're experimenting anymore.
No.
Now as the coach, you're saying this is the lineup I think can win for us. I do think that the scratches that are coming in and out, whether it be Holmberg, Yarncroc, Robertson, whoever it may be, this is what's going to happen in playoffs. This is not a one-time thing. Robertson's never getting back in. They're going to rotate these guys who are out of the lineup. So for tomorrow night, looks like Robertson is not going to be in again. And in net, Anthony Stolarz.
Yeah, so a couple things there. I think them starting Stolarz, and I know that they play Florida again in a week, but tomorrow night, them start that you cannot take that as anything other than a statement, first of all, and we'll go back to that. But you look at this lineup that we have in front of us here, and the only real change I can see in the playoffs is Pacioretty potentially coming in. He's getting closer. He was taking part in practice today. You
Full
see some
skidded,
he
contact jersey.
really looked like he was flying around. So it looked like he's going to be a potential option for them in the playoffs when it starts. Hakanpää is out there, but I'm not. I mean, I don't think you or I are either holding our breath for the potential of him playing any hockey.
Well,
games for the
two
Leafs.
things on this. Hearing whispers that not as ready as Pacioretty.
Yeah.
He's not on the same timeline. And let's just say he was 100%. we even sure he's better than Benoit? He hasn't played all year.
He played twice, which is crazy.
Yeah.
2 games. I don't know when or where they were, but he did play.
So I'm going to go ahead and say it like, I don't really care.
No.
Like, great if he gets healthy.
Yeah.
Maybe he can go play with the Marlies
Yeah.
and get some reps in. But your starting D-core is going to be McCabe, Tanev, Riley, Carlo, Benoit, Ekman, Larson in game 1, assuming everyone's healthy.
And looking at years past, I think that's deeper than it's been in a really long time. So you have to feel good about that. But no, I think Pacioretty going in for Holmberg is pretty much the only thing you could picture for a potential game 1 difference. But Robertson, listen, like he had a good stretch this year where he had some big goals for them. He contributed. He was great. But when it gets to this time of year, I don't think he's just really an option. I find it harder and harder to believe that he's going to be a really big contributor. Maybe when they go on further in the playoffs, potentially they get past the first round, somebody gets hurt, he has to play more. I could see that. But to start the playoffs, I don't see him being involved.
I hope by now people have listened to me enough on radio. This is, many years of doing this. I hope by now they know that when I say in January, February, Liljegren's not playing in playoffs or Robertson's not playing in playoffs, it's not my personal vendetta. The coaches don't want to play those guys compared to the other guys they have. And so for Robertson, I can see a world where he gets in game 2 or game 3 where they haven't scored and they need something. But I think we're pretty clearly at a point where he's not the first man up.
So to go back,
he'd be the first man in after.
Yeah.
But.
So to go to Stolarz tomorrow, surprised, or is it a statement for you, or is it natural rotation?
Here's the thing. Like you just said, this seems like a statement.
It does to me.
But to me, it's a statement without meaning to make a statement. Like you have to start one of the 2 guys.
Yeah.
And
it's not like you're bringing up Matt Murray for the start or something. Like,
right.
It's one of the 2 guys that are going to play.
One of the 2 guys. And starting Joseph Woll would be almost bizarre at this point.
Yeah.
Given he didn't look great in his last start. Stolarz did look solid.
Yeah.
To me, it's just like one of them is playing a little better than the other guy. You need to win the game.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm trying to read too much Toronto narrative into this, but it just feels like tomorrow kind of feels like a game 1 to me, where it is of huge importance. And this is all relative to setting up a first-round matchup with the Ottawa Senators, who have owned you for 2 seasons. Like that's the prize in all this, but it's definitely better than playing Florida or Tampa. It just is. So I think for them to start him is a pretty not big statement, because you did make a good point, but
you're saying it's not. It does mean something.
It's the biggest game of the year, and they're starting Anthony Stolarz.
There it is.
So
after tonight, there's 7 left.
Yeah.
Or after tomorrow night, there's 7 left. They clearly have made a decision here that he gives them the best chance to win, which is the calculus is going to be the same 2.5 weeks from now.
And next week, I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, they have Florida and Tampa back to back. One of those guys is going to get Florida. One of those guys will go Tampa. So maybe you flip it next week and you go Wall against Florida.
Because I don't think Stolarz. I think Stolarz has gotten Florida both
times and lost both times.
Yeah.
He's 0-2. So, yeah, I mean, they asked Berube about that a little bit, and he's like, oh, the whole team's 0-2. So
I love that answer.
Yeah,
I love that answer. He's like, he didn't go out there playing around a golf. The whole squad lost.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get Craig Berube's thoughts on facing Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last game we played them here was, a good hockey game. 5-on-5 was tight. Obviously, they scored 2 PP goals. The game for me could have went either way. I think we played them the right way. This team's going to check you. They're a hard team to play against. There's no doubt. I mean, there's not a lot of room out there. You got to fight for your ice, and I can go over the whole thing. Like, it's just you gotta be solid in all areas of your game against this team.
When I think of the way that people talk about Florida, I think about their forwards, right? Mm-hmm. You think about Barkov and Reinhart and Bennett and now Marchand and Lundell and Luosterainen, and these are solid defensive forwards.
Yes.
That back end, I understand they're going to get Ekblad back at some point.
Perfectly rested
Ekblad, and also perhaps more muscular than he was several months ago.
Or like chip on his shoulder, proving to everybody that it wasn't just steroids.
I do want the whole steroid punishment is so funny to me. It's like you get all the gains from having done whatever substance you took, and then you get rested up, presumably more gym time lean it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, and if you've made enough money in your career, it's like, what is the downside of this? I just got a bunch of rest and a nice boost, and here we go.
I saw Jurickson Profar for the Braves.
Yeah.
He got an 80-game suspension. I'm not sure. It might be his second suspension, so this is maybe why it is, but he's not playoff eligible this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he got an 80-game suspension.
That's great.
Without pay. And
2 is good, right?
Yeah, so he's not playoff eligible. Like, 1 can be a mistake,
Sure,
but
totally
2
could
or
be.
whatever. But I thought that was pretty interesting.
And I don't know, or, I'm not saying Ekblad did something on purpose, but definitely you do it twice. It's like, okay, well, at that point, it falls on you.
Yep.
But yeah, so their back end, the bottom pair is Tobias Bjornfot and Uvis Balinskis.
Yeah. Not
saying these guys are not. I'm saying the Panthers are a bit flawed this year.
For sure.
They're on pace for, a low 100 points or whatever. This is a team that I don't know that the Leafs would be massive underdogs against.
I think it would be minus 115, minus 105 for the Florida Panthers. Probably.
Absolutely. That's nailed.
And if they went into a series against the Tampa Bay Lightning, if the Leafs end up winning this division down the stretch here, and it's Leafs Ottawa in the first round and Tampa versus Florida in the other series, I'm not necessarily sure I would pick Florida against Tampa.
No.
I think Tampa is a better hockey team. I think they've shown better all year there. I think they feel like a little bit younger, a little bit hungrier, like the new wave of guys that have kind of taken over that franchise. They've done such a great job of like the Hagels and Gensel, and like bringing in these new
Bjorkstrand and Gord was like such Tampa Bay.
Yeah, really good. So I think that'd be a great series, and that's just stay out of that series so you can let those two teams have war crimes against each other.
Let Sam Bennett separate 2 shoulders, then send us Tampa Bay.
Sure.
That would be ideal.
Yeah. But they're like without Matt. Okay, we can play this clip. Play clip 2 on the Panthers and the discipline against them, please. There.
They're going to do their thing that they do, and they're going to try to disrupt you and try to draw you into a penalty. You just you can't react to it. You got to initiate and stand your ground. But, you got to be careful with taking the extra shot or swing or, it's hard, but at the same time, that's what they want, and you can't get drawn into that.
I don't know. I think back to that Panthers game. They gave up a couple. I'm trying to think of the penalties, but the difference in that game was those 2 power play goals. Sam Bennett scored one. Remember David Camp tried to skate behind the goalie? Was that in that game? Was there I'm trying to think. Anyways, I'm trying to think of the penalties in that game. I think there was a punch by Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Hey, it's got to be so
reverse hit. Was it a reverse hit?
Yeah.
The one? Anyway.
I just remember one of them being a stupid penalty in that game that cost him a goal.
Right.
And it's got to be so hard going up against these guys and trying to be like, this is a playoff intensity game. It's a playoff intensity game. We got to be juiced up. But then have Sam Bennett and now Brad Marchand, and if you ever play them in the playoffs potentially, have Matt Tkachuk added to that. Like, having that element is such a huge advantage for them because I don't think it comes naturally to any of the Leafs. So their natural response is retaliation, and that's always what gets called. So for a coach, that's got to be a hard thing to, like, coach up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he says he wants them to be on the front foot, initiate, but, like, they never really do.
No.
They've stood up for themselves better like we talked about yesterday, but it's never been like, we're the ones falling on a goalie.
So this is actually a perfect time to bring up a conversation you and I had the other day where when I played junior hockey, our coach would put the opposing lineup on the board, on the whiteboard. We'd have a team meeting, and he'd say there's circles and there's squares.
Yeah.
And he would circle certain numbers, and there'd be squares around certain numbers. And the circles were guys who you talk to them every chance, in their ear, talking to them, trying to get them off their game, pokes, punches after the whistle, because they were either soft and it would make them back off and be hesitant, or they're snap shows and they take a penalty.
Yeah.
Squares are guys that you would engage by doing that. So you just don't hear them.
You look down.
You don't talk to them. They don't exist. You're a robot to them.
You know who'd be a square is Jerome McGinley. Remember Jerome McGinley? Like,
don't get him mad.
Sleeping it through a game, and then someone would punch him, and he'd be like the best player of all time.
That's a perfect example. And to me, the Panthers, you would really have to be selective with that lineup about who do you want to engage and who do you not want. And this is something that Kip talks about a lot, is kind of knowing when it's time to punch first and read the game situation and stand up for yourself, and knowing when to not take stupid penalties. We're talking about Robertson off the top of the show.
Yeah. Circle.
Sure, yeah, total circle.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who can't take penalties and stay in the lineup. And here he is. He's taken, I don't know, 3, 4 penalties in the last couple weeks.
Including a slap shot after the whistle for no reason.
Yeah, real Nico Mikkola move there.
Yeah, but you know who's another sneaky circle on the Leafs if I was in the Florida Panthers room is Ulrich Ekman-Larsson.
Try to get him.
He is taken, like I've thought that he's given them great value on the contract. Maybe, actually probably perfect value. Exactly what they signed him for.
I think he's given him value. He's playing 21 minutes a night this year.
He's been good for them. He's been a good signing.
Yeah.
But if there's one nitpick that I've had of him this year, it's been he's been pretty willing to take a stupid one from time to time.
You like that.
I do, but in a game like against Florida where it's going to be tight and it's going to come down to special teams, if I'm Paul Maurice and I'm doing circles and squares, circle.
It is funny.
Circle, baby.
It is funny that there are games where you're not the tougher team, and so you're all amped up to be like, okay, we can't let them push us around, and then you take dumb penalties because you're like overreacting to things.
It's a hard balance, and that's why teams who are the initiators, like Florida, are so hard to beat.
Yeah,
because they piss you off so bad, and you want, and then they have a killer power play. They have guys that just like live for that stuff. So tomorrow night should be fun. Like, I'm really looking forward to it.
It's funny if you were to go through the Leafs lineup and look at those guys. Like Marner is definite circle.
Yes.
He's a guy who in the playoffs has not. And
Wilton.
Matthews is a circle too. Willie doesn't matter.
No.
Doesn't matter. You can try, but it doesn't matter.
I got to tell you, buddy.
They got a lot of circles.
There's a popular convenience store in this country called Circle K. That's the Leafs. It's just, it's only circles, buddy.
Oh, no.
Like, who are you? Like, I guess.
Well, McCabe's a square.
Yeah.
I don't want to get him fired up.
But he starts jumping up and trying to do crazy stuff when he gets mad. Like, they're a bit of a circle team, buddy.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I got some questions because tomorrow, as you mentioned, we're not on. It is the first work from dome day for the Jays.
Is that a phrase you made up?
No, that's the thing. So it's like they promote it as you go down there and work.
Bring your laptop.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm sure everybody does it.
Tons of laptops.
Quick Zoom meeting in the flight deck. I'm sure that happens all the time. But anyway, so we're off tomorrow, and we usually do the midweek mailbag on Wednesdays. So I thought before we get to Anthony Petrielli, I always screwed up. He gets mad at me. He's coming on at 4:30. I thought we'd get a couple questions from our listeners for the mailbag.
All right.
So a lot of these questions are playoff sort of related. And this one to me is a perfect sort of encapsulation of how Leaf fans are. And this is from Frank Starovich on Twitter, maybe is how you pronounce it.
Sure.
Can you tell my Debbie Downer Leaf friend why this year will be different? He thinks out first round guaranteed. And I have been Debbie Downer Leaf friend. I haven't really been able, and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit with Anthony too at 4:30. But like, I haven't really been able to. Maybe it's just guarding. Maybe it's just not letting myself get there.
Oh, it's guarding.
But I kind of am the Debbie Downer. And it's like, what is different? It's the goalies, and that's the biggest difference. The defense is deeper. That's a big difference. But when it comes down to it, you know what we're going to talk about. It's going to be the forwards. It's going to be the stars. Are they going to be able to score when it matters the most? Yeah. But can you tell the Debbie Downer Leaf friend it's going to be different?
Yeah, I can
and
do
that's
my
from Frank on Twitter.
I can do my best.
Thank you.
First off, I do believe that there is a layer of guys behind the top four that they haven't had in Nyes and McMahon.
Yes.
Who has been there that could be that in the playoffs? Bunting.
Yeah.
You know, they like, to me, Nyes is leagues better than whoever their next best fifth forward has been. So you got a couple guys who could score you a sneaky one when the puck gets on their stick. I do think their depth is a little bit more physical, maybe not fighty, but they're still more physical. I like the D depth a bit better. I would say a lot of the reasons the Leafs don't look good by underlying metrics are the reasons you think they might be okay in playoffs. Like, they dump the puck in. They don't try to hang on to it. They just kind of flip it out. These are all kind of playoffy things. And then I think a lot of their underlying metrics have been hurt by the fact that Matthews stunk for half a season and they were without, certain pieces at certain times. And I can see a world where it comes together at the right time. And if you win the division, I know Ottawa's no pushover. No one is in playoffs. Yeah. But it isn't the team that's going to go win the Stanley Cup. The last teams they've lost to, I mean, Florida went to the Cup final. Yeah. Tampa Bay, I don't know if they Cup final or what they did.
No, they did. They went to the Cup final and lost to Avalanche.
Yeah, they've lost to Tampa Bay when they won the Cup. Boston won the Cup when they beat them. They've lost to a lot of good teams. Even Montreal that one year.
They went to the final.
Yeah. Like, they've lost to real teams. That ain't Ottawa.
Yeah.
No offense to the Sens fans, but they're not there.
Okay. Kyle Hodgins with a very related question. Is it just idiotic fandom to not want to play the Ottawa Senators with the risk of losing to them? Or is there logic to it?
Yeah.
Should I say I'm an Ottawa area Leaf fan? Okay. Now we're starting to understand some of the reasons. Dominated the Sens in playoffs when I was in high school. Yes, brother, you're speaking my language, Kyle. And as pathetic as it is, that's like my best memory of being a Leaf fan.
Yeah.
This could be me in the Ottawa. This is
Ottawa you.
This is Ottawa me.
Yeah.
But I think
Sam McKee.
talking about the guardedness and we talked about this a little bit last week where you guys made fun of me, but I don't think it's just Ottawa area Leaf fans that feel like this, where when you've only had bad memories with a team like this, where you've had one great one when they won the first round series and Kyper loves the crap on it, but since he's not here, that was great and I love that so much, and I'll always
great series.
I'll always cherish that puck.
3 OT winners.
That puck trickling over the line, Tavares turnaround wrister, I will cherish that with all my favorite sports memories. It was great. First round, don't care. Pathetic, don't care. Kyper not here to make fun of me. But I think building, like, just on all the heartbreak and all the bad ways it's gone, I do think there's some Leaf fans that it's like, we're going to add in a first round loss to the Ottawa Senators to that brew, to that, like,
at least you would never have to wonder what if.
To that witch's brew.
If they lost to Ottawa, you would never have to wonder what if. Because they were never good enough to beat anyone.
Yeah, but,
But,
like, are the Leafs going to win the cup?
Oh, I mean, that's several steps down the road.
That's the question. That's
unlikely.
like,
seems unlikely.
Even if they just beat Ottawa, that's a great win for Leaf fans everywhere. That means a ton. But I think what Kyle's saying is not just Ottawa area fans. I think a lot of Leaf fans, myself included, feel
I actually spent a little time today in the car thinking about that Ottawa team and just playoffs in general and how you do, out of 32 teams and they cut it to 16, you're going to get hockey teams. And you're going to get a team here with some excitement that hasn't been in the playoffs, energy, pace. They're going to bring a lot of things that are going to be super hard to contend with.
Yeah.
And I think you would have to go into that series understanding it is a best of 7. And that, the first game it's going to be frenetic and you don't even have an advantage when you have a slightly less talented team that works as hard as they're going to work. But you can't pick through their lineup and say they can match up with the Leafs in many places. Like,
except the 5 straight victories against the Leafs.
Yeah. And I know the regular season has gone their way, but you know how hockey is.
Yes.
So anything can happen. They certainly could lose, but Matthews and Marner are supposed to be, McKinnon and whoever other good forward they had there. I don't know, was Rantanen.
Yeah.
And Draisaitl and Leon. Like, they're supposed to be that. They're supposed to be difference makers, where Stützle, he's not quite there yet. Brady Tkachuk is kind of hurt right now. He's not playing this week. David Perron's on their second line. Michael Amadio's on their third line. There's holes. So,
okay.
I know it would be scary, but you got to beat someone. If you can't beat them, you can't beat anyone.
Absolutely. All right, this one's from Budget Boss on Twitter. Okay. Can we please start referring to Tavares, Nylander, and McMahon as the number 1 line on the Leafs?
No.
Okay. They have 20 more goals than the Matthews line, 97 for 77. Even if we strip out the power play goals, Tavares line still has 13 more goals, 70 versus 57. And by the way, the gameplay is almost even 207 versus 202.
What's the ice time?
I don't know.
Yeah, well.
Budget Boss left that part out.
I haven't even looked at it, so I will give it a quick toggle. But, it's the guys who get the most points and score the most and play the most is your first line, right?
Okay.
Let's have a quick summary here.
Can you look it up?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay. As I
TUI per game played.
I can read a couple box scores while you look it up there.
No, we're fine. Top forward, Mitch Marner, 21-24. Yep. Second best forward, Matthews, 20-36. Willie is under 20 minutes, and John Tavares plays 18-20 a night.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, Budget Boss. You can't refer to them as the first line. Phil Kesselclaws on Twitter.
Okay.
All of this nice offer sheet talk has me really spooked. What's the number in term to get a contract done before the postseason? Well, brother, I mean, that's in 2 weeks.
We're here.
Or 3 weeks.
We're there.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be starting anywhere from the 19th to the 21st. So we're a couple weeks away, 3 weeks. I don't think it's getting done before the playoffs.
No.
And I do think there's a world where that's really scary.
I also wouldn't want to burden him with the weight of a new contract. Players often, after they sign a big ticket, like there's this new pressure on them and it doesn't go great for a bit.
Yeah.
If they gave Nyes an 8-year deal and it's for whatever, $64 million or something like that, I don't want to add that to him right before playoffs.
There is something to like making one of these guys stay hungry.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And having like it's a real chicken and the egg situation here. But if you have Matthew Nyes, if the Leafs go on a great playoff run this year, potentially, Matthew Nyes is going to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
And the best problem you can have is that he earns a big contract, is that he's a stud for them. He scored an overtime winner against the Bruins last year. He was on the ice for all 3 overtime winners against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Right, too.
Like, he has scored overtime winners in college. He is not afraid of the moment. He, to me, feels like that a little bit different than a lot of the Leafs stars. He doesn't have the scars. He kind of feels confident in these bigger moments. Like, I really do feel that he could be a bit of an X factor. And guess what? That may drive the price of his contract up.
Great.
But if it costs
drive it up.
If it costs $2 million more per year because he's unbelievable and leads them to the conference finals or the final, I think you'll spend the extra money.
Yeah.
So I understand that it's spooky and there's already talk about. I saw Friedge talking about the Flyers got 7 first-round picks. Maybe they'll do an offer sheet. Blah blah blah. He didn't mention Nyes, but that stuff's going to start bubbling up here, and I get it because he's a stud.
Yeah.
But I'm really not too worried about it.
They just have so much cap space.
Yes.
Like without Marner and Tavares that they can play with that like they're going to match whatever. The only difference that Kip and I have on this, and I know he would push back on this very conversation, is that, I do think he's so valuable at a time when other people are appreciating that offer sheets can work.
Yeah.
And that, yes, you would match, but you don't want to let someone else set the number.
Yep.
You just don't want to let someone else. They're going to keep him. You just don't want someone else to
That's
set
fair.
them.
Quick one. We have about a couple more minutes here. This is a bigger picture one. We've talked about this before, but I love this conversation and I want to bring it up. This is from Noah Chant on Twitter. Oh, no, it's not from him. Oh, sorry. I screwed you up there. Where did I lose it? Oh, yeah, it's from DSE Sports. Sorry, Noah Chant. Don't have time. DS Sports on Twitter. If Toronto ever got a second NHL team, would you guys cheer for them too or stick with the Leafs? I know that team would win a cup first, that's for sure. Of course,
for sure.
That is no question.
Yeah.
But I think that is my absolute dream for another team.
Mm-hmm.
Because
would you jump ship?
Oh my God, no. Immediate chastise. Like there's no like I'm telling you right now that if you jumped, you're like, I'm a Toronto whatever fan now.
Yeah.
You are the biggest loser ever.
Yeah.
Like it sucks to be a Leafs fan. I understand it. It's
there would be a lineup at the door to go root for the Huskies.
No question. And whenever you go to whenever you watch a Leafs Panthers game on TV or like a Leafs Avalanche game on TV or a Leafs whatever random team, there's always like 5 guys in the crowd that are like cheering with their like Panthers jerseys on. Those are the type of guys that are jumping shit. The guys are like, I've been a Panthers fan shut up. You're from Scarborough. Like, why are you, like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, I love the Avs. You're from Thornhill, brother. Yeah. Like, why are you doing this to yourself and everybody? It's like an attention-seeking thing, and everybody who is that type of fan would immediately jump ship to the new Toronto team, and it would be such a great rivalry.
You know what always killed me was if you're a New Yorker, you're on Long Island, the teams are divided, Nets, Jets, Mets, Islanders, and then it's Rangers, Giants, Knicks, yada, yada. Bree's dad, so Clark Gillies, always kind of killed me. He just cheered for New York teams outside of course, Islanders, not the Rangers, because he just liked the action in the city.
Love that.
He liked when there were events and parties and people were up.
When you win 4 cups for a team, you don't care about rivalries. You're like, I like fun. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Probably changes the vibe.
Nobody's going to be like, Clark, you're cheering for, we don't like you. It's like.
But I do think that there would be Toronto sports people are like, we just want to see a parade.
No. If you're that type of person, we can't be friends. All right, that's it.
All right, well, we're going to check out here, and we're going to come back with Anthony Petrielli. We're going to ask him how to say it. Writer at Maple Leafs Hot Stove and someone I think does a terrific job covering the Leafs. Happy to get him on, and we will talk to him after this break. Welcome back to Real Kyper and McKee today, except it's Real Bourne and McKee, I guess. Kipper's not here at all. It's me and Sam. That's who it is. You can see if you're watching on TV. We are now joined by Anthony P. I say like I'm at an AA meeting. Petrielli. You guys, is that right?
How's it going, boys?
Good, buddy. Hey, can you say it for us?
Petrielli.
Petrielli.
Okay, good. No, we're right.
Petrielli.
We're right.
All right.
Or you can roll the R and get the Italian in there.
I'm not going to attempt to do that. We really appreciate you joining us, man. For people who don't know, Anthony's at Maple Leaf Hot Stove, and I check out your Monday column every week. It's one of my favorites. You follow the team extremely closely, do a lot of lineup machinations, as do I, trying to figure out what the best version of this team is. So we'll keep it general for now. Robertson out, Pacioretty out right now. How do you like the state of the Leafs forward group heading into playoffs?
I mean, the way it's kind of configured is it all falls on the top six, right? Like, you're not going to get much offense here from the bottom six lines. Like, that's just the reality of it. But their top six is really good. Like, their top six on paper is fantastic. The Nylander, McMahon, Tavares line is winning their minutes. Like, the top line is like, they're a legitimate top line. Like, they're one of the best top lines in the league. But we've kind of seen this before. I think this might be the best second line they've ever had going into the playoffs. I don't know if that's a controversial take.
I don't think so.
Like, Nylander's second in the league in goals. Tavares is shooting the lights out this year. Like, McMahon is a legitimate 20-goal power forward. Like, it's probably the best second line they've ever had going into the playoffs.
So
but we've seen.
Go ahead, bud.
We've seen this where, like, they need the top line to win their minutes. And is the top line going to win their minutes notably against, Barkov, against some level of matching up between the Cirelli line and the Braden Point line? And then if they don't, is that third line giving you basically anything to hedge against them just having, like, a reasonable goal differential? That's the question. Like, is the third line giving you anything?
We got Lawton, Domi, Yarncroc is the third line right now.
Yeah. So all that stuff you said there, Anthony, is, you can talk about the fear, and we talked about it a little bit in our first block there with one of the Ottawa Leaf fans chiming in on their fear of playing the Ottawa Senators potentially. But when you lay it out like that, the way you just did in terms of who the matchups would be for the first line for the Toronto Maple Leafs, with some Barkovs involved, with Braden Points involved, Four Nations stalwarts. I guess, Brady Tkachuk was pretty good at the Four Nations too. But when you put it like that, you should get over your fear if you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, because it is a much, much easier task for the top players of the Leafs than it is going up against Florida or Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, their power play is also humming, right? Like, they haven't had the benefit.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to say the power play is officially going to be good in the playoffs.
No.
Like, I don't think anything they could do would make anyone feel good about it until they actually do it in the playoffs.
Maybe next year it'll get hot at the start of April as opposed to the start of March. And last year it was February. They'll
really
start
closer to the right
month next year. Yeah.
We'll see if they carry it through. I mean, you got Florida this week. You got Florida again next week in Tampa. So it'll be interesting to see. And at the same time, if they're going to give up anything the other way, which we kind of saw some cracks last week, like the shorty against San Jose. LA could have scored twice. But all that to say is a good power play would negate some of the lack of offense from the bottom six and any potential, the top line goes against Barkov and they score 4 and they give up 3 kind of thing over a series. A really good power play makes up for some of that. So we've kind of seen, like, both worlds. The power play hasn't done them any favors basically any year. And they're probably a little bit deeper in the top 6. Like, if we go back to that LA game, I thought, like, Nyes was amazing that game.
Yeah.
Like, he was unbelievable. They haven't, like, you're talking like Michael Bunting. You're talking like Zach Hyman was good here, but he wasn't like what he is in Edmonton. He
never had 50 points, did he? I don't think.
No. Right. So, like, Nyes, like, this version of Nyes is probably also the best left winger that Matthews and Marner have ever had. And it's probably the best top 6 in general that they've had. We already talked about the second line. So I get why they want to go with it. Like, it's a really good top 6. But if the third line is just getting tilted by Anton Lundell, who, like, he had 17 points last year in the cup run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he was, like, they're good. Like, Florida is a nightmare for matchups for anybody. Like, that's why they've won, 7 of their last 8 playoff series. Like, like, you guys know, like, playoffs is all about matchups, and Florida has a matchup problem. But this is also the benefit of the Leafs improving their defense, right? Like it gives them a little bit of wiggle room.
Mm-hmm. So does Pacioretty make you feel better about the bottom six at all?
Not like he's maybe like, can he get you a goal, like one goal a series?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
like
you're not even joking. Like, can they find you a goal here? Yeah.
That would be a big deal, though. Like, I know last year when Florida got Tarasenko at the deadline, like, that was what Maurice said to him. Like, we just need a goal from you every series. Like, you get one, like, notable goal, and, like, that's it. Yeah. I don't think Pacioretty now is as good as Tarasenko last year. But, like, all these guys, like Lawton, Pacioretty, like, even Domi, it's like, can you get a goal? Like, can you each get a goal a series kind of thing? Because the top line and the power play should theoretically produce.
Yeah. And in the style of game that Berube seemingly wants him to play, and like you think of that LA Kings game, which I thought was one of their better performances of the year, it's a 2-1 game. You know, look at every game last year in the playoffs. It was either 2-1 or 3-2. They're all these really tight checking games. So like you were mentioning there, the margins are thin. It's not going to be like you're getting blown out, or, I mean, there may be one or whatever, but like, if you get a couple from your top line, get one from the power play, get one, you start to add up the goals that you actually need to win a series. It's not as many as you think. You just got to keep it out of your own net.
Yeah. And like they're not that I want to sit here and totally talk up this team, but like, again, like their goaltending is some of the best goaltending they've had going.
Stolarz for you to start?
I mean, it's probably easier to turn to Joseph Woll if Stolarz doesn't do well. But I'm mindful that Woll's the only guy between the two that started a playoff game before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been good in the playoffs. Like I'm still kind of the mind of just like, let the season play out. Like Stolarz is going to go tomorrow. We know Woll's going to get one of the two next week, and Stolarz as well. I feel like we'll probably have a better indication after these next like 3 to 5 games, right? Like in there, you have like Columbus, who's been a problem for the Leafs this year. Like they play Montreal coming up, like, which is like, you know, Montreal's fighting for their lives right now. So like, yeah, I kind of want to see those games kind of play out. Cause like, you know, again, Woll's been really good in the playoffs. Like, I don't know if you could necessarily go wrong starting with either guy, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Which is a position they haven't been in the past. You know, as we sort of pick through the various matchups and the way they're shaping up, how confident are you that Morgan Rielly can be the guy we have seen him be in the past? Do you think it's behind him? Where are we at with Rielly?
I saw you had some stats last week about his speed, and it's been down this year, and like that's the problem, right? Like his game is predicated on skating, right? Like we're watching Tavares have an unbelievable year. Tavares was never a strong skater in the like. 18 years old, like he was not a strong skater.
Yeah, he scored 72 for Oshawa, and he wasn't a great skater.
Yeah, he can still score well, not skating great.
He was heavy below the top of the circles in Oshawa. He's heavy below the top of the circles for the Leafs. Like, you know, he's playing with two guys with speed, and they get him the puck down there, and he does his thing. It's like you're Rielly, you're kind of looking at going, well, if the skating is kind of on the decline, you're in tough. Like I know you've kind of had this complaint with him previously, Bourne, like on the power play, it's like picking out the right pass, even like just putting it in the wheelhouse. Like he's not like a passer, like he's a skater. And so I'm a little bit worried, but you know, if we talk about that LA game, what they tried to do, which I think makes sense, is they had the McCabe-Tanev pair try to play with the Tavares line, right? Especially against an LA team that was trying to match up Deneau against Matthews. And so then they're putting their top line, the Kopitar-Kempe unit, against the Tavares line and trying to exploit a matchup. But the Leafs are countering with, you know, one of the best shutdown pairings in the league. So then on the flip side, now you're playing Rielly and Carlo with Matthews, Marner, and Nyes. And it makes their life a lot easier, right? Like what does, you know, just don't get burned basically and move the puck up to those guys and let them do their thing. So, you know, they're going to try to shelter him, understandably so. And Carlo is a big help. Like Carlo's a legitimate top 4 defenseman. Like this was like they needed a righty, like kind of been saying it all year, right? Like they needed another righty that could play in the top four and kind of move the defense around a little bit. And, I know it's not like we're kind of complaining about the third line. It's like, did they do enough in forward? Maybe not, but on defense, it really kind of opens up their options and their matchups at the top half of the lineup. And, defensemen just play more than forwards. Like that's just the simple math of it. So that's why it's a big deal.
So I think we had the conversations going into the deadline that it was almost maybe even more important that they got a defenseman to kind of to round out the depth. And boy, they left there to the last second, but they end up with Carlo. And do you think you've seen an improvement in Riley since Carlo's? Like, do you think they've been growing together? Because there's been games where it feels like they have looked better, but that sometimes it seems like the chemistry's off, the communication's off. I think of that goal. Who was that against where they're pointing in the wrong direction and Carlo sinks low? Anyways, whatever it was. I really do think that Carlo pickup was an incredibly important one and a really good one. And he's grown in importance to them, grown in just been impressive. Do you think that Riley has gotten better with him, or it's been a lot of more the same with him?
I think it's been like somewhat the same, but he's just benefiting from playing with a better partner.
Yeah.
And it's like the lack of ambiguity, right? It's like we know every night who he's playing with, and it's a lot more settled. I honestly think where they get into trouble a little bit is how they might move around their defense a little bit too much, right? Like in the sense that Riley takes a lot of shifts with Oliver Ekman-Larsson on like for offensive zone draws and whatnot. And I was looking at it over March. Ekman-Larsson was second among their D-men in time on ice per game.
He plays a ton.
Yeah.
And he's good.
He is good, but probably too much. Like, I don't know if he's like second in time on ice among D-men good for like a Stanley Cup contender.
Yeah.
But he is good. So, I also think that they're realistically like they're resting Tanev.
Oh, do you think so?
Yeah, like Tanev's playing like 19 minutes a night right now.
I have noticed that every night. It's like he's like the fourth most used guy, and I'm like, Tanev's fourth most.
Yeah, right. Like they can't possibly sit there and think that Tanev is their fourth best D-man.
No,
right? Like Dallas did the same thing last year. Like when they traded for him, he played like 19 a night, and then playoffs he played over 22 a night.
Mm-hmm.
So like the dominant effect.
I'll be interested to see tomorrow night, though. I wonder because who was it that him and McKee hard matched against Colorado? When was that? When they ended up winning that game. And I think him and McKay both played like 25 in that game. They were hard matched against McKinnon. Be interested to see tomorrow if they, take the sports car out a little bit and actually let him match up, or they still try to keep. Because tomorrow, the stand is a massive game in the standings. Yeah. With so few games left, it rarely comes down to the end of the. It's been nice for the Leafs. Because every year we've known since December that they're either playing Boston or Tampa. So to have this
terrible for the radio.
Well, no, but even for fandom, you just kind of know what's happening. You kind of disengage. To have this huge game, and maybe they'll take the shackles off Tanev a little bit tomorrow and play him a bit more against the Panthers.
Tomorrow's a must-win. Like you can't possibly lose to Florida at home, on a tired Florida team that played the night before. It's their third game in 4 nights in general.
Yeah.
Like you're rested, you've been home for a couple of days, you're in your home barn, you haven't had success against Florida this year. Like you can't, you just can't lose that game. There's no excuse for it. And
they can't.
They can, but there's no excuse.
Fair.
You can't lose that game.
Yeah.
And I already saw Florida's starting Vancheck tonight.
Yep.
So they got Bob tomorrow. They know there's a chance here where Florida struggled with Montreal this year. And now they're putting in Vanacek, who's not a strong goalie. They lose that game, you're looking at putting Florida in the dust if they lose tonight, and then you got take care of business tomorrow on a tired Florida team. The
they're
separation.
Gonna Montreal by 6 tonight and rest everyone. That's what's gonna happen.
Right. And now you got to worry about Tampa. Tampa's right there. They probably haven't received enough love, but Tampa's. They're in the conversation. They're really good.
And Tampa's got a softer schedule down the stretch too.
Yeah, and the Leafs play them tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they get them on the second half, the back-to-back next week.
Yeah, that's not great. That'll be an interesting matchup to watch. Last one from me, and Sammy, have one more, and we'll let you go. Just the thoughts on the fringe of the D-core there. Myers hasn't played in quite a while. Benoit's kind of just become the guy. Are you down with just we're doing Benoit, and if Myers needs to get in, we'll see?
No, I know you got a hard time on the panel for the Sunday game, but like they
not
got
by anyone who knows what they're talking about.
Like they got like. You got to start giving it to Friedman. Like, I don't know what he's going on about. Like, you got this righty D-man. Like, he's got to play.
Yeah.
Like,
get him in.
Like, Berube last week said, I don't know.
Send him to the Marlies. What's that, sorry?
Berube last week said, I don't love OEL on the right side. I'm like, how are you justifying this then?
You've got a right shot D in the garage.
Yeah. Like, play him. Like, I don't even know if it would be better, but I don't know how it's not worth trying. Like, is Simon Benoit such a good second unit penalty killer?
He's a glue guy
on the left-hand side.
He's funny.
Yeah.
Like, just like that's their justification at this rate, right? Like it's definitely the penalty kill. Like you're making Oliver Ekman-Larsson worse, and like we saw this with him earlier in the year where they put him on the right, and then like his game, I don't want to say fell apart, but it definitely went down, and then they put him back on the left. And he looked really good. And now he's back on the right, and it's like he struggles. Like he really struggles to make passes on breakouts. Like it just backhand off the glass and out. Like he's not even looking for outlets half the time. Yeah. And I don't blame him because he's turning and it's awkward and the game tightens up. And so like I don't know what the return on investment is here. Again, like it's second unit PK. Like Oliver Ekman-Larsson can't second unit PK on the left. Like even Morgan Riley on occasion.
Right.
Like also their penalty kill's not good.
Also, there's that.
We don't have a ton of time here, but let me play devil's advocate here. I am a proud homeowner on Myers Island. Mm-hmm. Like I have praised Myers at times this year, but I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
He's going to come in. He's going to try to shoot the puck really hard. He's going to try like
7 shot attempts per game.
He's not like.
I love that though.
But there's something to be said for having a guy that knows what he is and knows what his role is and takes a puck, bangs it off the glass, hammers guys, physically engaged versus Benoit, versus Myers, who's beaver tailing for a pass every time. And like, every guy has a role. And like what's
Benoit's a rare punch first guy.
What's Lou's saying?
It's the orchestra.
Yeah, I mean,
not everyone can play the flute.
You need a butcher once in a while. And like I know Benoit is far from perfect, but I know what the Myers experience is, and he will get in. But like I'm not pining for it. I'm not pining for it, and I get why they haven't put him in. I do.
If Ekman-Larsson's a 7 on the right with Benoit, let's say, let's call him a 7. I think it's a generous number. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Like, what is he back on the right, on the left? Like 8?
Yeah. Like there's no question he's better on the left. I understand that. But then in a playoff game, we got to go here quickly, but even in a playoff game, Myers is going to play, 7-8 minutes? And then you're going to be playing Oliver Ekman-Larsson on the left anyway. I mean, on the right anyway. Like it's going to be, I don't know. It's pick your poison. It's the lesser of two evils for me.
I just want to get a little cardio here.
It's worth trying. Like,
Sure.
To Bourne's point on Sunday, like you're gonna need 7-8 D-men like over a long playoff run. Like if his last game is March 10th, and then 3 weeks from now someone gets hurt and Myers is playing for the first time in like a month and a half, I'm gonna sit there and go like, was there any foresight here?
You just wait till Yanni Hakanpää plays the Tampa Bay Lightning for his first game since 2024.
That's the real plan.
That's
They're
right.
just waiting on Hakanpää at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me on, boys.
All right. That's Anthony Petrielli of Maple Leaf Hot Stove. I get your point.
Yes.
And I think my point is more just like cardio, game speed, reps.
Sure.
Get him in.
It's crazy that Myers didn't play against Anaheim.
Yes.
And that's why Benoit had his best game of the year.
I know, he did.
He was awesome.
But then you look at the schedule and you go, okay, Florida, you got Florida, Tampa, maybe against Columbus he gets in.
Yeah.
Benoit playing great didn't make me change my mind that it was the wrong decision.
And then,
full credit to him for playing well.
And then Sunday against Carolina on Masters Sunday at 5 p.m.
That I'm working.
That's when Myers will play.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk to Jason Bukala, Dan Riccio, a lot more in the National Hour after this. All right, welcome into Real Bourne and McKee.
guys.
We are not with our boy Nick Kyprios today, who Sportsnet has sadly let go. No, I'm kidding. That's April Fool's. He's golfing. He's somewhere in Florida. We have a couple of shows this week, because the Jays play. Yeah. So he figured he'd take advantage of it. He will be missed until then. Yeah. But for now, it's you and me. How you doing?
Scram, beat it.
I'm good. You mentioned April Fool's there. I will not throw anyone under the bus. But as you may know, this morning, Tiger Woods put out a tweet at 8:40 this morning.
Yeah.
And said that he's going to be playing in the Masters despite rupturing his Achilles 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I looked at my phone. I was making a coffee. I looked at my phone, and I got an email notification from somebody at this company who sent it out, because we send out big sports things to the whole company. We do that all the time.
Right.
But somebody, I don't know the person, and I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to embarrass them. They sent it out to the whole company. I was like, listen, I've gotten God on some April Fools
group chats, or
my mom was very ruthless when it came to April Fools. So I'm very scarred, and I'm very
hate April Fools. Most people hate April Fools. I
like April Fools. I like a good joke.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one that's relevant to hockey. When I was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11. We were in Toronto. My sister Jackie lives in Toronto, so we were at her place. She was here for university. And the Leafs were playing the Washington Capitals that night. Mm-hmm. And my mom was like, Sam, we have tickets to go see the Washington Capitals and Toronto Maple Leafs play hockey. I'm like, oh my God. And I was jumping around Jackie's apartment, so excited.
Oh.
And then I saw the old ticker on the score when it used to be a TV channel said Leafs at Washington. And I was like a little kid, wasn't really paying that close of attention. And I was like, wait a second. Yeah, and my mom told me we had tickets to Leafs game.
That's brutal. You're supposed to do it the other way. It's supposed to be bad news that you then relieve the person of.
It was good. Also, when I was a teenager, we were in Florida. My mom told me that she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
And I was 15 or 16. She was like, and I bit it. I was like, I believed it. I was like, there's no way. No. She's like, you're going to be a big brother. I was like, no. And I believed it. So I'm very keenly aware of all. I saw the Mitch Marner one that got flicked out today. I saw some Tavares ones. Get your jokes off. I don't mind.
Yeah, I generally hate it. I was convinced I was going to summer school once.
Okay.
But,
you're right. That's the better way.
Yeah, then it was like, oh, thank God I'm not. Right, you get to live with the... Well, that's great.
Anyways.
This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Going to be joined by a minute by Jason Bukala. Going to talk a little bit about, the new signings coming to the NHL. Ryan Leonard joining the Washington Capitals. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Snuggerud joining the St. Louis Blues. You were saying you're a big fan of the fact that Ovi was taking out Leonard on his first day as a Capital.
If you've listened to this show, you know my thoughts on
You're not an Ovi guy.
Never been an Ovi guy. Haven't been since he wore a tinted visor for Team Russia at the World Juniors. Never been a fan.
So slighted. That is the most hockey culture thing.
Listen, I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then we beat him 6-1 in the medal and knocked him out of the game. Anyways, that video of older Ovi with all the young guys at the bar, just them chanting bands or make a dance, whatever the song they're singing. God. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He's 5 away from the literal all-time goal record. And he's out there just having a blast, looking if that guy walked into I'd be like, the zigzags room, I'd never seen him before. I'm like, this guy with that barrel, with his hair. I'm like, look at this guy. And he's just one of the all-time greats.
Oh, the other day I was having a chat with someone about the potential for players post-career to get big. I did it.
Oh, my God.
I was up to 230 or something pretty quick.
Post-career?
Yeah.
He's already there.
Well, I know. It's going to be fascinating to see how tight Ovi can keep it. All right. We are joined by Jason Bukala of the Pro Hockey Group and Sportsnet Puckpedia, the founder's scouting director. Oh, my God. Bruce, where are you, dude?
What's going on?
Fellas, I'm on the road. Okay, I'm on the road. I pulled over on the en route here. It's complete chaos outside Kitchener, but I'm here for you, as you know, all the time. I got my Scout Cito on here.
Yeah.
I'm meeting Sammy at the game in Brampton. I thought Sammy McKee might go up to Brampton after the show tonight, but
no. I'll go to the Jays game today, Books. Go to the Jays game. Go for the Major League Sports. I already made my pilgrimage down to London for Sunday afternoon to go see the Knights in the Attack play. So that was my junior hockey. I'm going to the Jennies on Friday. So those are my 2 junior hockey games. But yeah, so you're on the way for scouting. What on route are you at? They're all so scenic.
Yeah, they all look the same, but they are chaotic. Every one of them. Let me tell you, at this time of night, it's pure entertainment outside Kitchener here. There's a lot of chaos in the parking lot. A lot of fantastic people watching. I feel like I'm on the Strip in Las Vegas all the time. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you're not.
En route Vegas, baby.
I'm not. No.
Route Vegas. All right. So we were just talking about Ovi and Ryan Leonard. You did a great sequence of videos. I believe it's on your Instagram page, if I'm not mistaken. Is that where you put that out, or is it Twitter?
Did a piece on him today for Sportsnet.ca too.
Yeah, it's on all the above, Bourne. I'm getting better at this social media thing. So it's
you're multi-platform.
At Pro Hockey Group. At Pro Hockey Group at Pro Hockey Group for Twitter, but it is on Sportsnet.ca. You get all the good, and then you get a little one in there that I call an area of an opportunity for him that he's going to have to improve on. Ryan Leonard, that is, as he makes his debut for the Washington Capitals tonight. And before we get into it, I am fascinated by the weight conversation too. I do believe OV is going to look like I have Polish heritage, and my Jaja, my grandfather. I think there's a good chance OV is going to look like my Jaja in a few years. So
just $3 bills, eh?
Yeah, he went from like 200 when he was in the war to a svelte 295, I'm sure, towards the end. So, anyways,
a couple of pierogies along the way.
Jaja Ovi.
Oh, pierogies and cabbage rolls. All kinds of surprise foods.
All right, give us a Ryan
anyway,
Leonard scouting report there, Books, if you can.
Yeah, sorry, I know this is a hockey show. So Ryan Leonard, outstanding prospect. Honestly, I guess I shouldn't have used the word unicorn in my story, because there's about 3 or 4 of these guys. I don't know, when you have a league of 600 or 700 players, whatever we have, and if there's like 10 kids like this coming into the league, I still kind of think those are unicorns on balance. It's a very low number. Ryan Leonard is going to add another layer of power forward and skill to the Washington Capitals. He's one of my favorite players outside the league. All kinds of growl. He shoots the puck. His first instinct is to get it to the net instead of, be a natural playmaker. But he's one of those guys that he doesn't necessarily have to touch the puck to be involved in the play. So if there's a third assist that could be handed out, if you get my drift, because he extends plays and he's in the way and he's in the fight and he creates chaos. He's one of those guys. It's going to be a heavy lift here to start his career. We all know that. It's hard at this time of year to step in. Matthew Nyes did a nice job of it the first time he came out of school. Ryan Leonard had 25 even strength tucks this year, boys. 4 power play, 1 on the short. He played all situations at BC. Captained. He was the World Juniors. He was the top forward at the World Juniors, MVP at the World Juniors. This kid's a handful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't watch any of his college exploits, but him in the World Juniors, I mean, he was undeniably great. And all these guys that are coming in here, I can't help but notice that a lot of them have an American passport, Books. I'm interested in the sort of class, because we've seen what happened the last couple of years at the World Juniors, and with the best on best stuff that's starting to pop up here, where we're going to need these next generations to start, insulating what we already have. You see McKenna and what he's doing. I think he's got 8 points in the first 2 games for Medicine Hat to start the WHL playoffs. Like, how do you weigh the 2 countries' development programs, like, at this level? Like, have the U.S. really gone ahead of us a lot? Like, I don't know if it's too broad of a question for you, but I just think it's fascinating that, like, you think of Snuggerud who's coming in, this Leonard that's coming in. It's like, it seems like there's a lot of American influence on these college guys. There always is. But at this level, it feels like it's better than it ever has been.
Totally agree. Let me put it to you this way, Sammy. They've got it they have it in every skill category. So if you look at Snuggerud coming in, he's kind of like Ryan Leonard light. He's a guy too, uber competitive kid, shoots the puck a ton. What a great quote. I don't know if you guys heard it or not. They asked him what number he preferred going to the St. Louis Blues. Yeah. And he says, I don't care what it says in the back of my jersey. I play for the crust on the front of my jersey.
Hockey men everywhere were like, oh, God, that's incredible.
Oh, my God, man. Yeah. If a kid at the Combine could come up with something original like that for me, I'd be taking him out for, stuff later on. I'd be very excited about it. But, I mean, they have the U.S. model is grooming players to be productive in all kinds of categories. So we talk about the Leonards, you talk about the Snuggeroos, you talk about the Nyes. Yeah. But then you look at the Lane Hutsons and the Cole Hutsons. And by the way, Quinn Hutson, who's the older brother of the Hutsons, the oldest, he's a forward at BU.
There's 3 of them?
He's going to get a deal. There's 3 of them, buddy. He's going to get a deal too. and I would anticipate he signs one here coming out of the Frozen Four. Now he's a forward, he's a different player, but to your point, when you start talking about McKenna's and the Celebrinis, or I don't know, like we could go down even Porter Martone. I can go and watch Porter play tonight. There's a power guy, there's a big power guy, but the volume of players and in every category, even goaltenders, like look at the goaltenders. Trey Augustine is, I didn't see if he turned pro with Detroit yet or not today, but I believe he's going to come out of Michigan State. They've got it going on at every category, fellas, and coaches. Like David Carl, come on, there should be a lineup around the corner for him, for his services coming out of Denver.
Yeah.
So how does the process of like cross-checking leagues go? That always fascinates me, because you watch a guy and you're watching a guy in the O and you're like, okay, at the O, he's this. Is he better than a guy who's played 42 games out of Denver in a totally different style of hockey? Like, how does the process of determining how to stack these guys up against each other happen?
So, great question. First of all, you have to eliminate some sort of bias, and you have to take as much information in as possible. And you also have to factor in, for me anyways, the position the player plays. So if you're a defenseman, for example, like the Cole Hutson kid, and this is why I wasn't worried about Lane Hutson when he was going to turn pro, Bourne, because I saw him. College hockey, you played it. College hockey, on balance, is 3 years older than any category of major junior. So the average age is like 22 and a half, somewhere around there. So if you're 18, 19 years old and you're a defenseman, for example, like Lane, and I see that he's in the fight and I see how calculating he can be to defend, that tells me something, because like I kind of feel more comfortable that he's going to be able to, even though some of those college games are not as skilled as maybe the really high-end elite CHL players, but they're men and they're playing hard and they're playing fast. And you remember those college games, like you're so amped up on that Friday night, right? To get it out of your system, because you've been sitting there all week. You play those two games. That's why when I go scout college games, and for my staff, I would always tell them to go for both games. Don't tell me you're going to this game here on a Friday and that game on a Saturday. I need you to see how they are on both nights, because Saturday is a lot more organized. But anyways, I digress here. You have to take the macro into account here, and really you start with your baseline. Never change your baseline. Are you thinking it? Are you executing it? And are you playing fast and thinking fast? Is your relentless compete in place? Because nothing else matters. I don't care what level you play at in the world. If I'm scouting a kid in Europe, in college, in the CHL, if you don't play fast, think it fast, and have that relentless compete, especially at this time of year, the rest of your skill set never going to matter. It doesn't matter. You could be the most skilled guy on earth, but if you're not ready in all those other categories, you're never going to be able to make it happen. So it's a fun time of year, but it's different hockey. I will say that. And then next month, when I'm in Dallas for the World Championships, U18 Worlds, that's going to be different all again, because those Euros are going to come over here and play on a NHL ice size sheet. So now you're going to see some of those smaller skill guys who've been playing on bigger ice, and see how they adapt on the smaller ice next month. So a lot goes into it.
I was just furiously trying to pull up the Calder odds for the NHL, but I'm an idiot. I can't figure it out. Anyways, I just wanted to ask you, because you're mentioning Lane Hutson a lot there, and I got to tell you, at the start of the year when he was taking all those minuses, as a Leaf fan, it was a lot more fun to talk about it and be like, oh yeah, maybe he's not so ready for this. And then I watch him against the Panthers.
It's so nice of you to treat the young kid that way.
Yeah, then I watch
as a grown adult. What a nice thing to do.
He's playing in the NHL. It's fine. What are you doing here? But I watch him against the Panthers on Sunday, and it's like, oh my God.
It's like, oh no, they got Quinn Hughes.
Yeah. So for me, I think Celebrini's been brilliant this year. Dustin Wolf has been unbelievable as well for the Flames. Like, he's the only reason they have a chance. Like, how do you handicap this Calder race? Because all three guys are having brilliant rookie years.
Lane Hudson's for sure for me right now. It was, and I honestly, if Dustin Wolf could have led, I'm not saying they're not going to get there, but so I guess right till the end of the season, I'll hold back on my vote. But if Dustin Wolf can somehow backstop the Calgary Flames in the playoffs, listen, the Calgary Flames, you guys know how they play. They got such great character. They pull for each other. They work for each other. But they have not scored a lot of goals this year, guys, right? So when you're 32nd in the league in goals for, that just puts an enormous amount of pressure on your goaltender, because you can't outscore your mistakes necessarily. So that's where I sit on Wolf. I think that he's a fantastic story. He's probably number 2. I don't know. Probably splitting hairs on number 2. But listen, Lane Hutson, what he's done here, you have to go back to 1985, 86 with the Montreal Canadiens. I forget. Might have been like it was a Euro, I believe, who led or who was named Rookie of the Month for the Habs twice in one season. That's how far back with that historic franchise. And this is the most amount of points as a rookie defenseman, I believe, that has been scored since Nick Lidstrom. So the kind of company he's keeping here and the way that he's evolved, to your point, Sammy, at the beginning of the year, it was okay. You know, how are you going to adjust? How are you going to be more calculating with your defending? Obviously, he's got small area quickness. He's got dart and active stick. He's not going to want to body up necessarily, right? He doesn't want to get worn down off the cycle. Smart, super competitive, and then the rest of his skill set. You can't teach that. You can nurture it, but you can't teach it.
Yeah. Like, I'm just looking at the guys that he's ahead of in just points this year for defensemen. Like, you know, he's ahead of Evan Bouchard, Dahlin, Josh Morrissey, Adam Fox, Eric Carl, like points guys.
Yeah.
That not there, you know, you don't measure the defenseman just like that, but yeah, it's
Not
a
even
real
grown up yet.
It's a real deal here. Like, yeah. And with that Demidov too, they might be in good shape.
Yeah. Ooh, Montreal.
Yeah, they might be in good shape.
They're going to be a little bit okay.
Yeah.
Like they got the Fowler kid at BC, the goaltender who had an outstanding year at Boston College. Eventually, he's going to arrive. Obviously, they've got Demidov on the horizon here, and you know, I can't wait for him to get over here. For the kid, first of all, because it's good. He wants to be in North America. He wants to be an NHL player. And they're playing with him a little bit over there between the years. You know, they threatened to bench him for KHL playoffs. Leading scorer, by the way, at Sky. Yeah, we're going to bench you for the playoffs on an expiring contract in the KHL. Bananas, of course. And then they dressed him. So they're just playing mind games with him. And then he scored. He scored in the first game. So, boy, oh boy, the Montreal Canadiens, they got a lot in the cupboard. A lot.
No, that's enough of that.
Slafkovsky looks pretty good too. So we had Andy Strickland from St. Louis on yesterday. They're a bit of a story, right? I think they won 9 straight. They've just surged up the standings. The one thing that stands out to me is when we had Doug Armstrong on earlier in the year, you know, he was kind of waffling about what they were going to be, and they were thinking about the future. And he said, you know, one thing people don't really look at with us is we have 5 first-round picks or 5 former first-round picks coming to join us in the coming years. So the Blues are good, and they have guys coming. Snuggerud is one of them, I presume, and then there are some others that look pretty good as well.
Well, yeah, I don't have their roster right in front of me. Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Dalibor Dvorsky is one.
It might be in the washroom at the en route if you want to go have a quick look there.
Otto Stenberg, Zach Dean, Zach Bolduc, Snuggerud.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. So Stenberg. This is the great thing about what the Blues have coming. So with Dalborski, you got a shooter. Okay, So Snuggerud shooter, Dalborski shooter, right shot, left shot. 2 different styles of play. Snuggerud's more in the fight. Dalborski's more like a guy who ripped the pill from the flank on the power play and do some things from the perimeter. And then you get Otto Stenberg, he's a how can I put it? He's a bull moose in a china shop. He's built like a fire hydrant, but he's in the fight all the time in the middle of the ice. He's been part of the leadership group with Team Sweden at every level, captained their team. And he can push the play up and down the ice. He'll provide secondary offense, I think, in the NHL, but he's got all those other tangible things. When I think of the Blues right now, though, guys, as good as they've been, I think it's like 15-2-2 or 16-2-2. I may be out by a game there in the last 20.
Smoking hot.
Look at the top of the table. Look who's doing the scoring. Thomas, Holloway, Kyrou. Like these guys are leading this group, and they're all they're 25, 26 and under, you know, and Dylan Holloway's got, I believe, 25, maybe 26 goals now as well. So not only do they have it on the horizon, they got that mix of veteran guys that are going to, you know, still be good enough to assist that push with those young guys. And then you start saying what you said there, Bourne, about the young guys coming in. I think St. Louis had 8, if I'm not mistaken, 8 prospects at the World Juniors this year.
How did they do that? They just won the cup.
Number.
Yeah.
Why do they have picks and prospects?
They're pretty good.
Smart.
Yeah.
Doug Armstrong, man.
Yeah.
Hey, picks, prospects, and you signed 2 offer sheet guys.
Yeah.
So you mailed in some picks.
Yeah.
They spent draft capital for the offer sheet situation for Broberg and Holloway, and they've still got all that on the horizon. Great job by by Danny Janelle there and their scouting staff. Like, there's certain teams in the league, and I love all the guys on the tour. I really do. But it takes about 10 minutes to take a look at the Dallas Stars, the Washington Capitals, the St. Louis Blues, even what the Calgary Flames are doing right now, the Montreal Canadiens. Like, these teams are, replenishing, and they have a plan and they're sticking to it. And look what's happening. With St. Louis, it's extra special because it wasn't too long ago they won a cup, and now they're going to be looking like they're loaded for bear for several more years.
It's interesting there. You mentioned the Caps and the Blues, and I think there's some parallels between those two teams.
Sure.
And if I'm a general manager with like a kind of a pushy owner, I wouldn't necessarily love those two teams as examples because they're like, well, look at them. They never sucked.
Look at Chicago. All of a sudden,
it's like,
why are you so bad?
Yeah, but it's like those two teams never really sucked. And now they're at the top of the stand. One team's won 9 in a row. One team's at the top of the standing. They've been able to sort of, bridge the gap between being really good and being cup winners and never truly bottom out to build their team. Is that, I guess that's scouting that it comes down to, but I'm sure there's some owners around the league that are like, those goody two-shoes.
Making me
look bad. Like Kyle Davidson in Chicago is like, geez, this isn't looking great for me. Yeah.
Why do you have to suck though? Like, why do you have to suck? I mean, you're only one or two bad decisions away from it all falling apart. Like, I'm going to pat myself and our staff in Florida on the back just a little bit here. They're doing in Florida with the Panthers is unbelievable. Bill Zito's done a fantastic job with his staff, but we were getting good and we were good right before he took over. But when he left, it's not like what happened in Toronto. Like, Kyle Dubas had a different plan for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it ended up being that there wasn't any prospects. The cupboards were bare for draft capital. They were up against the cap. When Bill Zito came into the Florida Panthers, if you want to take a look at the guys that he traded out around the league that we left them, Weegar, Huberdeau, Matheson, Montembeault, Owen Tippett, all these first round picks that the cupboards were full. There was space available on the cap, and you could just turn over the roster, or you could trade out prospects that you didn't want to have. And you don't have to be bad to be good. And when you get good, you should be able to create some synergy there. But my one thing I would always say, don't fall too in love with what you have. Like,
yes.
There is an expiration date on what you have. If it doesn't work, don't fall too in love with it, because you got to keep, filling up the tank of gas with something new. And that's a problem with a lot of franchises in the league. They think, oh, let's just give them another year. Oh, let's just give them another year. And before you know it,
nothing.
You're 3 years down the road and it's over.
Yeah.
The Jays traded a Nick Robertson before the Leafs did.
They did. They traded Nick Robertson today, apparently. They had one. Who knew?
Anyway.
Unbelievable.
But I've always said that, the team knows before other people know. Even when the name is still relevant, the team's like, God, I'm not sure about this guy. That's when you should probably make some of those moves. So, I know we're jumping around, but I know you're, the whole league. So Calgary Flames, not just going to ask you about all the young guys. Last night, Adam Klapka scores the game-tying goal. He also makes an unbelievable, pulls it from behind the net for a tuck that Lomberg puts in. They've another come from behind. Does Klapka have a chance to be a guy in the league? 6'8", 24 years old.
He's got a guy as Calgary gets good to be in the 4. Like, that's what he is. I'm not going to, again, like, he's had a hell of a week. Like, he was challenging people and, doing what he's got to do. He made that move on the blue line. It was like, whoa, what just happened there? Where'd that come from? But yeah, he's a 4 and he's a big 4. If you can create chaos, and I'm not talking about having to drop the flippers either. I'm just talking about being a hard out and creating space for your group, i.e. Lomberg, who, by the way, Ryan Lomberg, if anybody wants to watch a lot, he is the biggest smile, one of the most energetic guys in the league. What a great guy to have in your room. But that all fits the culture there. That all fits the culture there. And Klapka's a 4, though, Bordy. I'm not going to oversell that.
All right. One last thing before we go. We let you be on your way. The Ottawa Senators. I watched yesterday. We had a quick conversation about the trade for Cousins and Norris. Some of the behind the scenes thing. We didn't really get to see the full conversations people have. But in your experience, what are those conversations? You can touch on that one specifically if you like, or just tell us generally about the process the scouts have in those big trades.
So the first thing that happens is you eliminate any outside noise, and that includes injuries. So what you do is you take a look at the athlete and you say to yourself, on the best day, who's the better player? And give me the reasons why. Mm-hmm. So, right shot, left shot, play it fast enough, win face-offs, track 200 feet, create better in the secondary offense. Can he be used in all situations? What's his compete level like? And then the big one for me, and I would always ask our staff this, on his worst possible day. And I mean your worst day. Like we all have bad days. You can wake up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever. On your worst possible day, how much does he have to give the group on his bad days? Because that's really important to me. It's a hard league and things. I need to know that. Like, I want to know that. It's not an exact science, but you can kind of figure it out, right? So you start with that. And then beyond that is when you start to talk about injury history and, situational success or lack thereof. Because some players that leave Buffalo, for example, they spike out other places. You ask yourself the question, why? Is it what they're surrounded with? Is it because they were not the best version of themselves there, et cetera, et cetera? And then it gets to the medical with Norris, and that we would hand that off to our medical people. You would ask for the medical from the Ottawa Senators, hopefully the agents involved in that, and it would be as truthful as possible. If you don't get that medical, in my experience, if I don't get a medical, I don't recommend that we do that deal to our upper management, our ownership, president, whatever. Because when you've had several shoulder surgeries like that, I need to know that I'm going to have this player at that age for several years, because that's what Cousins is going to give in Ottawa. So those are the background discussions. And, if you're really lucky, you've run face first into one of the trainers who can tell you exactly what this kid's like behind the scenes and how respectful he is as well. Because when you want to really know everything about a player, go ask the trainer. As we all know, they know everything about everything.
They do. They're the guys in any given dressing room. All right, Books. Well, go ask some people in the en route. What's up with them there?
Your really bad day is talking to us from a Kitchener en route.
Boys, next time, let's do it live, like me walking around the en route.
Do a man on the street just doing interviews
with the live cam.
What do you think of the Leafs? You're just getting killed.
Pure entertainment.
All right, Books.
All right.
See you, bud. Drive safe.
Thanks for your time, buddy.
All right, boys. We'll see you. Thanks for having me.
All right, Jason Bukala, the Pro Hockey Group and Sportsnet. Great stuff.
What a guy.
Yeah, what a guy. You want to do some game time before we go?
Let her rip. All it's right. Game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app, latest odds, and find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. It's 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Yeah, so I was furiously trying to log into or figure out how to do the futures on here because I'm so bad. But just quickly, because my phone is malfunctioning as we're quickly talking here. Lots of action on the ice tonight, and the big one for the Leafs and for the Montreal Canadiens, in fact. This game tonight has a ton of stakes. The Montreal Canadiens are plus 140 underdogs on home ice against the Florida Panthers.
Give me the Panthers.
I mean, this could go one of two ways, right? That the slap shot at the end of the game, which I tried to argue yesterday that, there was still time on the clock, and finding a guy 5K is a little bit weird for a shot where there's time on the clock. I think that would probably inspire the Montreal Canadiens. They're going to come out hot. Like, I know they're at home. That's going to be an electric crowd. There's some hate involved. I do think there's a world where the Montreal Canadiens are big time in that game. But I think the other side of it is you could get the Florida Panthers minus a goal and a half at plus 150. And I don't think that's the worst bet either. But
no.
I think if you were looking to bet the Montreal Canadiens tonight, I think they would be live underdogs in that game.
The one thing on that game, the Canadiens have the opportunity to dress Arbor Jacki, and they're not. So if they were really mad about that thing or focused on it, I think they'd throw him in. I'm going to be talking about that after this on Hockey Central with Don Granado, which is pretty cool.
Love that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Tonight, the Calgary Flames have yet another massive game. Every game for them is the biggest of the year. They are in Utah to take on the Hockey Club. They're big dogs, the Utah Hockey Club. Big travel for them. Taking on the Calgary Flames, minus 185 for the Utah Hockey Club tonight, plus 155 for the Calgary Flames on the money line there. Big value on Calgary if they think they can do it in the second half. They have Dustin Wolf going tonight, so we'll see. And the LA Kings hosting the Winnipeg Jets. The LA Kings are minus 120. Rare chance to get the Jets at plus money, plus 100 for the Jets tonight in LA. Right. And that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Plus 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk to your friend and mine, Dan Riccio of Canucks Central, our boy. A lot of news about Rick Tocchet. Is he signing, extending? What's going on there?
Big Suitor extension coming up here for the
Puce. Anyway.
You notice why I didn't say his first name? Because I'm not sure if it's like Puis or
Yeah.
Puce. I don't know how to say it. So
It's Puce.
Okay.
All right. When we come back, Dan Riccio, Canucks Central. Hi, welcome back to Real Bourne and McKee. This hour of Real Bourne and McKee is brought to you by Bet365. Thank you for your support there. We really appreciate it. Can I tell you my favorite Twitter thing I just found is Ryan Leonard's contract, his entry-level contract. This year has a $275,000 performance bonus if he wins the Conn Smythe.
Wow.
Can you imagine being confident enough to be like, and put a bonus in if I'm the best player in the whole league in the playoffs my first year?
Gotta tell you, that'd be quite a story.
I got to tell you, that'd be worth a lot more than $275. They'd just be like, yeah, we'll give you $10 million if you win the Conn Smythe. Who cares?
Yeah, Ovi would personally give him $10 million.
Yeah, what an incredible bonus that is. We are awaiting Dan Riccio.
No, I think he's ready.
Oh,
The
we
reach?
have Reach.
Oh, we got the reach.
How you doing, Dan Riccio of Canucks Central? How are you, pal?
What's happening, fellas? What's my bonus for this hit?
$275,000 if it brings us in. Oh, I don't know.
Your bonus is getting to talk to your oldest buddy, Sam.
Oh,
That's what it is. We've been working.
You know what? It's a good enough bonus for
get
me.
a new agent.
We've been working together like literally my first day at the station.
And what year would that have been?
I don't know. Way longer ago
I
than I
started
wanted to
in
admit.
09.
Oof. So I probably would have been like 2011, 2012. And I remember doing
Something around there. Yeah.
screening Raptors post-game calls. And I didn't know how to like punch in the phones. And Riccio was working the board and I was freaking out. And Eric Smith was not pleased with me. It was not a great scene. It was not a great scene. And now look at us.
It's just a typical day at the office for you.
Yeah, that was tough.
That's great. Well, we appreciate you coming on. We have been dabbling in Canucks conversations.
Yeah.
We had joked that our first conversation or question to you might be just a umbrella year-long question. What's happening over there?
Boy, I think it really all goes back to the beginning of the year. You know, lately it's kind of like expectations have come so far down for the Canucks that you're like, all right, you know, bunch of young kids, bunch of injuries, and they're punching above their weight, still playing pretty well, giving the Jets a good game on Sunday. And it's rough right now, you know, without Elias Pettersson and Philip Hedl out of the lineup. You're down your top two centermen. Quinn Hughes is playing at less than 100%. You just can't have the biggest expectations for what this team is as currently constructed. But you go back to the beginning of the season and expectations were, well, they're going to do better than they did last year, right? When they took Edmonton to game 7 of the second round, and they've gotten nowhere close. And it really went off the rails right from the start. Obviously, whatever was happening behind the scenes had a big effect on that. And they've never been able to get it back and going ever since all of that happened in December and January with Elias Pettersson and JT Miller.
Yeah. So I guess if you were going to like do the sports talk radio thing and like place the blame somewhere, where would it be? Like, it feels like there's so many different places, injuries, very high profile spat between the team's two best players, Quinn Hughes, you know, missing time when it was at most crucial. Them talking about him flying into the Four Nations. Quinn Hughes is coming. Remember that? That was insane. Like, where does the biggest talk? It's been taking some heat. I see on my Canucks Twitter. Like, where does it lie?
Honestly, I do think it goes back to Miller and Pettersson and whatever exactly it was that happened between those two. You know, of course, injuries played a big factor. They didn't have Dakota Joshua from the start of the year. Philip Hronik missed 2 months. Quinn Hughes has missed time. Thatcher Demko's barely played. They've had a ton of injuries and to big players throughout the course of the year. JT Miller, even he took the 10-game absence before he eventually got traded. But all of that, you think about the commitment that the team had last year, the way they defended, how hard they played for Rick Tocchet, and how they won that Pacific Division title. We didn't see that at the start of the year. They were getting results early on. They kind of kept the smoke and mirrors thing going through early November. And then I think they had 3 wins in all of December. You know, the cracks started to show. They were getting blown out on home ice when they hardly ever got blown out last year when Rick Tocchet won the Jack Adams. They just did not have the same level of buy-in. And now, really since the Miller trade, they've gotten that back. And I don't want to put this on Miller because there's plenty of blame to go around in the whole situation. But whatever it was that got into that room and how deep that spat between Miller and Pettersson got, it affected the way the team played on the ice. And I don't think you can separate how this team played early in the season from where they've ended up here and how that element of this season plays a factor into that.
So to go back and forth from positive to negative, because there's lots of negatives that we could talk about, but is Quinn Hughes the best player in the league? Because I honestly, every night I watch them, and I love when they're on the East Coast because I like East Coast Quinn Hughes as opposed to PST Quinn Hughes. But I mean, he's one of the main reasons I have any chance in every game I watch. Like, he just has the puck the entire time he's on the ice. He plays all of every overtime. Like, every overtime he's out there for 4 of the minutes. If they ever found a way, and it's going to be impossible now, what are their chances to make the playoffs? But he is a legit MVP candidate for me. I love watching him play. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, they don't even they're well out of the playoffs without Quinn Hughes this year. I mean, the season would have been cooked in December if it were not for Quinn Hughes and the way that he's played this season. He's an unbelievable talent. And I do think, we don't often see defensemen have the capability to be talked about in the Connor McDavid sort of range, the Nathan McKinnon sort of range. But Hughes and Makar are there, the way that they can dominate a game. And certainly Hughes, because he does it as a one-man show. Like, Makar has McKinnon to work off of, whereas Hughes, it's like, I'm going to have the puck for 4+ minutes a night when I'm on the ice, when nobody else in the league is above 3 usually. Mm-hmm. It's an absolutely insane thing to watch, the way that Quinn Hughes controls a game, but the injuries have really affected him lately. And I think you see it more on the defensive end than anything else. Since he's returned from that injury that kept him out of the Four Nations, the Canucks have been outscored 14-10 with him on the ice. Before that, they were, I think, +20 at 5-on-5 with Quinn Hughes on the ice. So it's been a drastic difference. He just hasn't been able to defend as hard. You see it when, he gets into battles. They try to shelter him as much as they can away from those kinds of things. But he's still everything to this team. And if he gets back to it, they might just win out the season and find a way to sneak in.
So do you think there's any chance, like, if they lose a couple here and it goes down to 0.1% or whatever, that he just stops playing, that they just kind of shut him down here?
I think it's going to be ultimately Quinn Hughes' decision, but I wouldn't be surprised. He's clearly not at 100%. I don't know what percentage he is on it. At one point, Rick Tocchet was like, "We're not going to play him if he's below 80%." But I'm like, "Are we sure about that?"
As long as you're a fun number to pick.
Are we sure about this? I don't know. But again, he's just clearly not there. And I think as soon as they're out of the playoffs, you might see Quinn Hughes get shut down for the season. But I think ultimately the competitor that he is, it's going to come down to how he feels about it.
All right. Well, Tocchet is at the center of the news of the day. Elliot put out a story today saying that, the Canucks are saying behind the scenes that Tocchet's either going to play out his, sign an extension or they're going to activate they have the option, right, for Tocchet next year. Where are things at with Tocchet and coaching Vancouver?
1-year coaching contracts, always coaching.
I think right now, Tocchet, going all the way back, we asked him first about it on Canucks Central in September when we were at training camp in Penticton. And even then, he had sort of the same mindset. I'm not worried about it. We'll figure it out at the end of the year. So he's always been consistent in his messaging when he's asked about his contract. But I do think this comes down to a couple of things when they do get down and dirty with the negotiation of it all. Money. Mm-hmm. Is he going to get paid at the top end, which is about $5 million? He's got the Jack Adams. So I don't know if he gets into the Mike Sullivan, John Cooper range of salary for coaches, but he's probably above $4 million with what he's put on paper as the Canucks head coach. And the Canucks, unless they're playing multiple head coaches like they were when they had Tocchet, Boudreau, and Travis Green still on the payroll at one time, they generally don't go into that range of what they pay their head coaches. So I think that's going to be something that's a part of the negotiation, but also a bigger part of this, not just on the money end of things, is how does Tocchet feel about the situation? It's been a trying year, as we've discussed, everything that he's had to deal with off the ice, not so much about the X's and O's this year as a coach would like it to be. So how does that affect the way that he feels about the future in Vancouver? How does he look at the situation with Quinn Hughes? What does that look like beyond his current contract, which has got 2 years remaining after this one? And obviously the biggest question is, does he think he can win with Elias Pettersson as his number one center? And I think that's that's a big part of, when they talk about the future and how they're going to make sure that whatever happened this season doesn't happen again. How do they try to tackle that when they get to their exit meetings at the end of the season?
Yeah. So, and there's also the little carrot out there of his, the Flyers Hall of Famer with the opening with the Philadelphia Flyers here after Torts got shown the door.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that's, everybody's making that connection.
Well, on that, I think like what happened today and what Elliott reported today, and we've talked about it on Canucks Central. Sad has reported it as well. The Canucks are using that option year as a way of staving off any potential interest.
Yeah.
They're saying, we're going to pick up the option. And then, if Rick Tocchet doesn't want to coach, well, then he's not going to be coaching for anybody. So it's their way of putting their foot down and saying Rick Tocchet is ours and everybody else can back up.
But to my point is like, you want to go coach? Like, I watched that Flyers team the other night. Like, they reek. I know they have like a bunch of picks coming up here, and he's a Flyer Hall of Famer, and maybe you build into this role. But like, you can picture next year the Canucks being back to being a playoff team. Like, the pieces are there. Quinn Hughes still plays there. Hronek, they're still got a good top pair. They got a good goalie when he plays Demko, a good backup option in Lankinen, who's capable and showed great at this time. Pettersson's been brutal this year, but like, that could turn around. They have pieces. To me, the only reason the Flyers thing is like any sort of attractiveness is just because he's a Flyer Hall of Famer going home. He knows Keith Jones, but like, do you want to just stink? Mm-hmm. Or do you want to like actually coach a team that has a chance to make the playoffs and compete in the playoffs? I know what I would pick, and it's the Vancouver situation. I know it was crazy this year, but it's not going to be like that 2 years in a row, is it? I don't know. No Miller.
Is it?
Like, I don't know.
No,
like,
it's, I mean, the Canucks is still a better situation.
No
I mean,
question.
The Flyers, whoever gets hired for the Flyers is probably gone in 2 or 3 years when they're more ready to compete than they are as currently constructed. The Flyers, they've got some good prospects. They've got obviously Mitchkov. They got some good defensemen coming, but like, you talk about having a number one center. I know, like Elias Pettersson, there's a lot of questions there, but he's still a guy who scored 100 points in the league. Yeah. He scored close to 40 goals in the league. The Flyers don't even have a guy coming, really, that plays center, that has that kind of potential and has the ability to take over a game the way we once saw Elias Pettersson do. So I would have those questions if I'm Rick Tocchet. I know there's a deep connection there with Keith Jones, their president of hockey ops, that really, makes you point the dots and connect the dots in the situation. But you're right, Sammy. I mean, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. That Flyers gig is one that is kind of like feels like one where a guy's coaching it just to be the guy that gets fired in 2 or 3 years' time.
They're the Bruno Caboclo of hockey teams, 2 years away from me and 2 years away.
Yeah, but I do think if that's how you feel about the Flyers, it's relevant. You said that you like a lot about what's going on with the Canucks. Where do you see the Canucks' future reach? Like, in terms of guys on the way, guys who are going to stay, can Pettersson find it? The Tocchet being not wanting to be there and having them do the option year thing is probably not great either.
No.
It'd be nice to clear up some of that stuff. So what's the direction for the Canucks if they are to miss playoffs this year?
Man, I'd love to be able to see into the future, get the crystal ball, get the crystal ball going, and seeing exactly how this offseason plays out. The biggest thing with the Canucks is what happens and how they keep Quinn Hughes happy to the point that come next summer, he's willing to sit at the table and be like, yeah, sure, I'll take $120 million from you guys for my next 8 years, because that's really what matters right now is how do we sell this future to Quinn Hughes? And, maybe you'd like to take a little bit of a deeper breath and try to let this breathe, let some of your young guys like Tom Verlander and Jonathan Lekkerimaki play out next year and see how that develops. But I don't think on Quinn Hughes's timeline, you have that opportunity. You need to make big moves this summer to set yourself back up in the conversation, to be in the playoffs and maybe be a cup contender next year, which is a wild timeline, but you've got to get there quickly. Yeah. And Elias Pettersson is the biggest part of that question. What do you get out of him? Do you keep him? I don't see how you trade him and get somebody better. So ultimately, I think he stays in Vancouver. And 2, what are you going to add to this roster this summer? There's not a lot of options in free agency. You're probably not keeping Brock Besser with how the trade deadline played out. I just don't see where you're getting that piece in free agency, and you're going to have to trade for somebody. do you have the pieces that other teams really want if you're going to try and acquire a top 6 impact player? And they probably need 2 of them.
All right. Well, Reach, we're before I let you go here real quick, you got 8 games left for the Canucks. 16 points would take you to 97. So you probably got to win, what, 7?
8-0.
Something like that.
7-0-1 might do it.
7-0-1.
It's every game is must win. I mean, the Blues are never losing again. So you're catching the Minnesota Wild.
It could happen.
I mean, they got that. Go ahead, bud.
It's probably going to happen, but if they win 4 of their 7, I mean, it's kind of cooked anyways for the Canucks. So you're not going to win any of the tiebreakers either in the conversation. So you got to get to at least 7 wins in this race right now, which didn't look like it was going to need 95 points a couple of weeks ago, but with the way the Blues have gone, that conversation changed. You need 7 of 8, probably 8 of 8 if you're going to really make it.
The Blues got another powerhouse tonight, the Detroit Red Wings. So you blame the schedule makers for the Canucks. Like the Blues have had a cupcake for 2 weeks here.
I know.
It's been brutal.
Don't have a ton of confidence in the Yzer plan, if I'm being honest.
It has not been pretty. And you got your Travis Matthew. Have you been golfing already out there, Reach? Did you come from the course? Like I just see that golf shirt on.
Oh man, the cherry blossoms are out. I'm feeling the golf course calling my name every day, but the schedule's been a little too busy lately. But we'll get out there later this week.
We got 35 millimeters of freezing rain apparently coming to GTA tomorrow. So
cool.
Yeah,
another ice storm.
Cool.
Yeah, another ice storm.
That's it.
Yeah, great.
All right, Reach. Well, thanks for your time,
bud.
man. We appreciate it.
Cheers, fellas.
All right, that's Dan Riccio of Canucks Central, 4 to 6 p.m.
So do you like? I don't know. Like I get why like the history and the Flyers Hall of Famer. But Rick Tockett's I guess it comes out of what he wants. He's a incredibly competitive guy.
Yeah.
And he saw like parts of that team be really good last year. They have great pieces.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the choice next season who to coach, there's no comparison.
I don't know if there isn't.
Really?
Well, here's why. I would say with those 7 picks in the first 2 rounds this summer, I would like to know, what are you doing with those?
Are you acquiring players or drafting?
Are you flipping those and now we're going to add a center, now we're going to get some players that I can work with, or are we waiting 5 years for those picks to be useful players? There is something to be said for stability, and Briere and Jones have done that for Philly, where they've calmed things down. Torts stepped out of line and started acting a little squirrely, and they were like, that's enough.
Yeah, I'm seeing some of the stuff from the Chiclet guys. You see, they were talking about like some of the stuff that was said between you. I'm not going to try to paraphrase it, but like
Between him and York?
Yeah, and like I don't know if they were, but it was pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah.
Like on maybe bury him, like you're not going to play even if you sign, like
Right.
all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, they were like, you know what?
Here's the door.
Goodbye.
Thanks. You don't want this in a rebuild anyway,
Yeah.
and that's fine. You know, I think right now they're doing some assessing of what are these guys like without Torts, but I do think it looks like a stable place to go be the coach. And I heard Doug Armstrong talking about Jim Montgomery and saying, you know, not often you get to be a guy who's there for sort of the turnaround and then still be the coach you want there once the team's there. Could Tocchet do that for Philly, where you say, we're going to try to turn around quick, flip some of these picks?
He's definitely stability. If he would represent that if you are Briere and Keith Jones, no question.
Give him a 5-year contract.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I do think if you look at Vancouver, stability has not been a word I associate with what's gone on there this year. You know, like, man, I forgot.
But there's no way it could ever be as bad as it was that year. Okay.
No, I think you're probably right.
2 quick things.
Yes.
Last time the Red Wings and the Bruins both missed the playoffs in a season,
No idea.
1967.
Whoa.
Gonna happen this year.
Ooh.
And last thing, shout out Onside Attack, playing Game 3 at the Bayshore tonight. Gonna be rocking. Shock the world, boys.
Thank you to Jason Bukala, Dan Riccio. Who do we have in the first hour? Anthony Petrielli.
Yes.
Thanks to everyone. We will be back on Thursday.
Yep.
It's me and McKee. We'll see you then.